everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm very sorry for being gone for so long. I said in my last video that hopefully this wouldn't be one of the videos where I just post it and then disappear for a month, and guess what? It was. So I apologize for that. This hasn't really been a lot of time for me to make videos, and I haven't really had the motivation, and school sort of made it hard for me to have energy, but anyways, in this video I'll be going over materials, what kinds of materials you should use, where to get them, and what they're useful for. Let's get started. So starting off, fur! All fursuits have them. All fursuits use fur, unless you're my first, which belongs in a Five Nights at Freddy's game, which I didn't use fur on. Yikes. But starting off with fur, I have two little samples here. This stuff, silver luxury shag. I believe it's a 1.5 pile length, and I got it off of Big Z Fabric, where I get all my furs from. Now, furs like this are shaveable, which is something you want in a fursuit. You can tell it's shaveable by usually how expensive it is, and if you peel it back like this, if you are able to see the canvas, then it's probably not, and if you can't, then it's good. Next up, I have a medium pile, also from Big Z Fabric. This is the same color of fur I used for Forest, and this one's also shaveable, as you can see. And this, I believe, is called 1-inch Eco Shag, and I also got it from Big Z Fabric. This gray fur actually is also Eco Shag, and I would highly recommend this kind. Next up, get on to foam. Starting with 1-inch foam. 1-inch foam here is the foam I use the most for my fursuits. I use it for the eyebrows, additions on the muzzle, the lower jaw, the cheeks, the ears. It's the foam I use the most. This stuff I believe is medium density. You can see it is squishy, but it also holds its shape really well. And now we have 3-inch foam. Now this stuff is the thickest of the bunch, and this is what I use for muzzles. I take two pieces, glue them together, carve them down into the shape of the muzzle. This stuff is also really thick, and I got this from Fred Meyer, and I got my 1-inch foam from Walmart. Now, onto vinyl, fake leathers. As you can see, this is some relatively thin vinyl that I also found at Walmart, and this is the leather I'm planning to use to make the holster and the hip pouch for Venus when I get to it. As you can see, pretty nice. Now, one thing about working with vinyl is it's a pain to work with. It's grippy, so it's really hard to inside out if you have small pieces. It's slippery, so it can be hard to machine sew. Depending on the vinyl you use, it can be really thick and can actually break your needles. And it is just not fun to work with. There have been times where I've just made a dozen claws out of fake leather, and I've tried to inside it out, and it just hasn't worked, and I had just cried at my sewing machine. It might be different for you, but I hate working with vinyl. Alright, on to mesh. So this stuff here is actually solar screen, but this mesh right here is the kind of mesh I use for my eyes. As you can see, it is relatively see-through, and you can sort of see me through it, but it also is black, so it provides better vision through light. I got this off of Amazon. I just cannot seem to find solar screen anywhere in person, so yeah, I just have a big roll of this, and this is what I use for my eyes. Next up, paint. This is the kind of paint I like to use for my blacks and whites. It's called cheap acrylics. It is so nice. It's thick, and it's quality, and the colors are so spot on, and they stay when you brush them on, and it's actually relatively inexpensive. And for the other kinds of paint that I use for the colors, I mainly use apple barrel stuff. Next, eye plastic. This stuff. Now, when it comes to plastic, I don't really use it so much anymore because I don't make my eyes the same way I used to. I like to buy these Resin Blanks, which is what I use for pretty much all my fursuits right now. But as you can see, it is a pretty thin plastic. You can bend it, and the way I use it for fursuits is I mainly only use it for 2D eyes. I take my heat gun, this thing, heat it up, and then I'm able to basically shape it. And next up, duct tape. Now this here is a good roll of duct tape. This is the stuff I use for making duct tape dummies, not patterning. The stuff that's really good for patterning is the Dollar Tree duct tape. It is pretty shitty quality for actual duct tape, but it's thin and sticky, and it is just the best kind of tape for patterning. So yeah, it's cheap. It sucks for real duct tape, but it's quite nice for fursuit making. This is like the real heavy-duty stuff from that like you'd find at a hardware store. And I believe I got this from Bimart. Now, Minky. Ooh. Minky is my favorite material that I use to make tongues with. Forest's tongue is actually made of Minky. And it is very, very soft. It's like what they make baby blankets out of. So it's very, very nice. It's very soft. It's great for tongues. The one problem with it is it's very, very slippery. So it can be really hard to sew on your sewing machine if you don't have pins or clips. And I believe that I also got this from Big Z Fabric. Next up, Fleece. I got two different colors. This stuff is black anti-pill, and I got it a lot thinner because I use it to actually line mouths. Like Forest's mouth is lined with this stuff. And this stuff is relatively thin, so it's much easier for stretching. As you can see, it's a little bit stretchy too. And this stuff is also white anti-pill fleece. It's a little bit stretchier, but it's also much thicker, as you can see. This is the stuff I like to use for teeth when I'm not making resin teeth. Next up, felt squares. Now, stiff felt squares I use a lot for eyes. You may be wondering like, oh, what do you use felt squares for? I use it for eye borders because it's very, very thick, and even if you cut it really thin, it keeps its shape. So you can like glue it over an eye, cut out the inside, and it really helps give a following effect, as you can see with Forest. So that's what I use this for, and I don't actually remember where I got this. Joann's probably. Next up, cotton. Ooh, this stuff. Cotton, like thin cotton like this, is what I use to line all of my fursuit heads. It's very comfy and it's very affordable. I'll show you, hold on. Sorry, breaking the magic here. So as you can see, the inside of Forest is lined with that. So that's what I use cotton for. And this, I believe I got out of like my mom's fabric bin. And I'm not entirely sure where she got this originally, but probably Joann's. We got a lot of fabric there. Next up, thread. Yay, so interesting. Now this heavy duty thread is a kind of thread that I use to sew all of my fursuits. I don't have a good open example of how thick it is when it's open, since this is unopened currently, but it is very heavy duty, and since the way I tie my threads is double knotted, this just never gets undone. This I also believe I got from Walmart in the sewing department, but I'm not quite sure. And last but not least, weed whacker line. Now you're probably all thinking, what in the hell would I use weed whacker line for? But actually, weed whacker line is really thick. As you can see here, it's quite thick and it curves, and I like to use it for tuning cat whiskers. This is a fresh roll since I already used up my last one. But I'm currently making my OC cyanide again, and this is the material I'll be using for whiskers. I hope that you found this video interesting, helpful, useful, and if you need any help, I have a lot of my contact and social media in the description. So if you have more questions about materials or where to find them, I can probably help you on that front. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed and found this helpful. Have fun making fursuits. Bye!